we're delighted to welcome Susan Hayes, also internationally known as the Positive Economist. She's a breath of fresh air in the world of economics. While not wanting to overlook the suffering that the recession has brought about, Susan maintains a belief that it is possible to find many things to be positive about. She's also the Managing Director of HayesCulleton Limited, a financial training and educational company, and she's an author of The Savvy Woman's Guide to Financial Freedom and Positive Economics. She's also a successful individual trader, financial trainer and speaker. She's actually here today just to answer a few questions on how to set smart goals. Susan, we've got a few questions to ask you today, and one of them being, can you explain what you mean by smart goals?
Thank you very much, Emma. I've used the process over and over again, both professionally and personally, and a smarter goal framework has 7 key points. So the first one is specific. So how can you make your goal specific so that you could recognize if you got there? And I would encourage anybody listening today to make sure and use a positive word. So what I mean by that is, rather than saying, I would like to get out of debt, instead to use a term like, I would like to have £10,000 savings in my bank account in X number of years. Or instead of saying, I would like to lose weight, saying, well, I would like to move towards a weight of where I am 12 stone. Or instead of, I want to get out of my job, saying, I would like a job where I work 30 hours a week and I get paid £30,000 a year. So just where you would move towards a more positive, where you're moving towards something, first of all, and secondly, you recognize it when you see it. The second thing is to make it measurable so that you know as you're clocking up successes that you're moving closer and closer and closer towards it. So every single application that you make brings you closer to that job. Every pound that you save brings you closer to that eventual goal of having the savings that you're looking for. But it's also important for that goal to be attainable and realistic. Because if you are trying to work 25 hours a day, or you're trying to do something that just really is beyond all capacity, you're setting yourself up for failure before you ever begin. So it's important to say, okay, this might be difficult, this might be very difficult, this might seem impossible, but you know what? Other people have done it. So therefore, it's not impossible. I just have to work out a smart framework in order to move towards it. Then the other thing, and it's personally, I think this is the really key element, and that is timely. I remember when I took on my PA, it was the first time that I had to document every single thing that I did in my diary, because of course she couldn't be scheduling appointments for 11 a.m. if I was finishing a meeting at 10:30, because I needed travel time. So for the first time ever, I actually had to document every single thing that I was doing so that she could plan my diary effectively. And then I realized this is the reason that I never could complete to-do lists, is because I never had the time to do them. So I would, for example, give myself 10 tasks, which if I was to really document it, which I had to do when I got my PA, worked out at around about 16-hour working days, 7 days a week, which you may be able to do for 1 week, but you certainly can't do indefinitely. So it's important, and of course that brings you right back into attainable and realistic as well. So timely is key. Make sure you give yourself the time and put it in your diary, physically write it down in your diary, create that space so that you can create your goals. Then it's also important to make sure that they extend you. It's important to make sure that you're growing as a result of them, whether it's in a business capacity that you want to grow your market share, or whether it is in a personal capacity that you want to grow your wages, or whether it is in a totally different capacity entirely that you want to do something that you haven't done before, whether it's run a marathon, or whether it is go on a holiday of your dreams, or whether it's take 3 months off to travel India, whatever. Just as long as that it's something where you can see yourself benefiting as a result. And finally, rewarding. I think one of the reasons that people fail with their goals is because they don't see results fast enough. So, for example, I go on a crazy diet for 3 days, and afterwards I'm just exhausted, I've no energy, I have taken all the chocolate out of my diet, etc., and I just think this is ridiculous, and therefore dieting is not for me, because of course I haven't seen any results. Whereas instead, if you give yourself little rewards along the way, as you clock up those measurable actions, it's much easier to keep going. When I was doing my professional exams, I think I took the best care of myself that I ever did, because studying is hard. It's hard on the brain, it's hard on the body, it's hard on your psychology, and it can often impact other areas of your life. And it's very, very difficult to do that for 9 months straight. unless you take care of yourself along the way, to remind yourself of why you're doing it, and also as well in between to go for a massage so that you can take the tension out of your neck, to make sure and really savor that moment when you've got that question right that you've been working on for 2 days, and then to really savor the moment and switch off on a Sunday evening and enjoy sitting down with a cup of tea and a good movie. It's really important to reward yourself, little and large, along the way.
Thanks for that, Susan. I guess our next question to you is, do you have any practical tools that will help achieve our goals?
Yes, I do, and actually many of these tools are well within your own reach, and in most cases they're free. In fact, I'm on the hashtag Success Series and Career Ally. I'm just having this conversation as we're running through the webinar. You can see that people are tweeting about this, and that is that one of the key things that we can all do is network within our network. There's lots of ways, lots and lots of ways that we can utilize the existing connections that we have in order to propel us forward. So for example, if I'm in business and I want to move in the direction of maybe greater profit or greater customers or greater number of leads or a new service, I can always turn to enterprise organizations to help me get there. So whether that might be like UKTI in the UK, which helps me expand outside of the UK, or whether it might be the Enterprise Europe Network, which is an organisation across and funded by the European Union to help companies export across the EU, whether it is Enterprise Ireland, an organisation in Ireland that helps companies move up the enterprise ladder, and whether it is, there are so many state agencies and private organisations that are there to help us move forward. Lots and lots of training organisations, lots of networking events, and all of these are there to give us a platform to meet new clients and customers. Also, if people are, which I'm sure they are, interested in expanding abroad, and the reason I think that if they're on this webinar, is because Morgan McKinley truly is an international organisation. So I'm sure that you attract a similar ilk, and there are many FDI agencies interested in talking to businesses who do want to expand. So for example, when I was looking at expanding into Manchester, MIDAS was very, very helpful in helping us find, new accommodation, in looking to meet new people, again, networking events, service providers, research funding. Similarly, we have an organisation called Connect Ireland, which is an organisation in Ireland which helps companies expand into and across Europe, and particularly, obviously, with the focus of creating employment in Ireland as well. There's lots of trade missions that these agencies organise. There's also lots of international networking events that these agencies organise. So particularly if you want to expand abroad, that there's so many supports out there. Also, we have a lot of career coaches around. Some people are actually called career coaches, but there's also other informal career coaches, like possibly people who are simply in your organisation or in your family circle or in your social circle, who are a little bit more experienced than you. And you can go to them and say, well, I'm feeling stuck in a rut, or I'm feeling that I would like to move forward and embrace a challenge, and I don't quite know how to do it. Or another thing is, you could go to your own alumni in college or university and go back, possibly through your LinkedIn group if there's one set up, but also you could go back to the careers office within your own university as well, where you are now a graduate, and just say to them, I'm at a certain stage of my life and I need some advice. There may well be capacity there too. And also, personally, I went to Edinburgh, which is a city in Scotland, fabulous part of the world, a couple of years ago, and I moved out there for summer. And I didn't know where to start. I didn't know anybody, didn't have any contacts, didn't have any references. Not there anyway. I had them in Ireland all right, but not in Scotland. And I approached a recruitment company, and they took me through my CV, they took me through interview techniques, they questioned me up and down about my ambitions in work, what type of environment I'd like to have, what salary expectations I'd like to have, where I saw myself in 5 years' time. And it was really like a personal coaching session. And apart from that, they had a wealth of experience in dealing with employers. They knew what I should be asking for in terms of salary, and of course they ultimately got me my job as well. So I would certainly go and talk to recruitment experts, go and talk to recruitment agencies. Morgan McKinley, I've worked with them before, a fantastic organisation that has a lot of capacity within the company. So I would certainly, there's no reason that anybody should feel alone or on this journey on their own. There's so many people out there, and they're willing and able and so proficiently able to help you. Two other things as well that I would suggest is, first of all, Trello. Trello is a great, it's an app that I use. I have it on my iPhone, I have it on my iPad, and I have it on my, it's on the site as well. And I've linked the three together. And what it allows me to do is actually create 3 separate lists. So I have to do, doing, and done. And you might say, but you know, anybody could just write it down on a piece of paper. Yes, you can, but you tend to throw away a piece of paper as it's done, or you forget it somewhere. Whereas with Trello, I can really manage what I'm doing. I can see what I have actually been doing, where my time has been spent, and I can get a great piece of satisfaction out of moving a card from doing to done and from doing to doing. So what it allows me to do is to open up my, I open up the app on my iPad in the morning, and I get a sense of where I'm at, and it's great satisfaction to move all those around by the end of the day. It's also great if you're working with a client on a project, because both of you can gain access to this board and you can both see where you're at and see what each other are doing. And you can attach things, you can have checklists, you can assign people to them, you can put comments. It really, I found that it's really been fantastic for my productivity, and I don't have to say, oh gee, where was that to-do list that I put again. ThePositiveEconomist.com is my own blog, and anybody can sign up for free and to get articles every week. I write about a lot of different things, but they come under the umbrella terms of personal finance, entrepreneurship, economics and financial markets. The Enterprise Europe Network is the other link that you see down there, and what that is, again, is just an organisation that helps companies export all over and across Europe. And also LinkedIn, an amazing resource of intelligence, of comments, of networking, of opportunity, and of course it is the new digital, live and up-to-date form of an address book also.
Great, thank you so much for those helpful tips, Susan. Our final question to you is, what is the secret to achieving our goals?
Well, for me, the secret is accountability. The secret for me has been making sure I don't let procrastination set in. It's very easy if I, say to myself, I'd love to earn an extra £5,000 this year, but nobody knows about it. Nobody's going to ask me about it again. If it doesn't happen, the only person that knows about it is me. Whereas if you involve external sources, you up the ante. Even if that external source is only a diary. If I, for example, like in the image there that you see on the slide, if I write down that on the 15th of December, which is about 3 months from now, what I'm going to do is I am going to have made 20 distinct efforts to raise my revenue by £5,000. And let's say I get to that point and I haven't taken one single action, there's just not a nice feeling about that. Whereas instead, by actually holding yourself to account, you can say, okay, I'm going to give myself the 3 months, break it down, how many actions per week can I do, put them into the diary, and actually you're actually scheduling your goals into happening. You're making sure that you're giving them the time to actually manifest. The other thing that I would say as well is I found team meetings are very good. So if people openly and are happy to do it, if they openly share their goals, and then they can be supported, they can be reminded, they can be encouraged, and if they fall off the bandwagon, somebody else can pull them right back up there. One of the most effective things I did in my business was my fiancé is my business partner, and we started meeting once a week. And what we did, it's a Friday night, we call it our board meeting, and we go through every single thing that's going on in the business, and we both take away actions from it, and we have to do them by next week, or else explain why. Now, again, you might say, but couldn't anybody do it? Yes, of course, anybody could do it, but the point is, do you do it? Do you actually take the time out to really look at what you're doing, where you're going, and how you're going to get there? Because often, when we're singing Auld Lang Syne on New Year's Eve, that's the time we start thinking about where our lives are and what we're going to do and what we should have done by now, whereas we actually do it every single week, and that makes sure that procrastination is just not allowed. And when you keep procrastination out of it and you create actions towards it and you have the accountability to turbo boost that, your goals really become almost imminent. They really do. And I also have another accountability partner, friend Sarah, and we actually hold each other to account in personal goals. So whether it might be, whether it might be to run a marathon, or whether it might be to climb a mountain, or whether it might be to go on a cookery course, or do whatever it is that we might want to do that's outside of the professional realm, what we do is, just two friends, we've a light link in common, and we simply catch up every couple of months and we say, so how are you doing on X and how are you doing on Y? And I have to say, it's also a really enjoyable way, because it's lovely to share your goals, it's lovely to share the success, and it's far more impactful if somebody gives you a call and they say, okay, well, you've got a little bit of a knockback, just get right back on there, let's just move forward, and then you've got far more of a stimulus rather than, oh, well, sure, nobody else knows. So for me personally, the secret of it is like I mentioned earlier, the practical tools and supports behind me that I can go and reach for the stars. But particularly, it's been the people who've helped me to get there. And it's actually on that very note that I just would like to encourage everybody who is on the webinar with us today to make sure and remember that you never know how close you are from an incredible opportunity. Many things that have happened in my life have done so serendipitously, and it's just because I really do believe that if you keep chipping away at small actions, a mega one is sure to come a little bit down the line. So what I personally would like to do, Emma, if it's okay with you, is to finish this particular webinar on a quote, because as an economist, I'm a trained economist, and we're often asked by organisations to come in and to predict the future, but really, in my opinion, in the words of Peter Drucker, the way to predict the future is to create it.
That's a fantastic way to end it. Thank you so much, Susan, for your time and also your fantastic insight.
You're very welcome, Emma. Thank you so much indeed.